So just like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, I feel like Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes has gotten a lot of heat lately about being just an underwhelming release in January for the Nintendo Switch. And just like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, I completely disagree and think that Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes is actually worth your money. Hello everyone, my name is Josh Newman, welcome to Switch Mania, and on this channel we do news, reviews, and gameplay for the Nintendo Switch. And today is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays we do our review days, and today we're talking about Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. So let me go ahead and start off by saying I have never played any of the other Travis games for the Wii, so my opinion is purely based off of what I know about Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. I actually watched a lot of reviews leading up to its release date and actually canceled my pre-order with GameStop because I just heard overwhelmingly negative things about it. Reviewers were saying that the graphics were underwhelming. They were saying that the combat was repetitive and boring, and basically the only thing that this game had going for it was that it was a Suda51 game and that the story is very Suda51. But overall, after I had canceled my pre-order, I kept watching reviews because I actually thought that the gameplay and the graphics looked really nice. I thought, based off the reviews, that it looked good. I didn't understand where the reviewers were coming from when they said it looked underwhelming. And if a story's good enough and the game looks good enough, then usually I can make my way through the game, even if the combat's a little mediocre. So in the end, I did decide to pick it up digitally without the expansion pass because that's only priced at $30, and $30 is half the price of a normal standard game nowadays. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I really want to give this a shot. And I am so glad that I did. I am so glad because I heavily disagree in a lot of areas with the major reviewers out there about their feelings about this game. First of all, let's start with the graphics, all right? I feel like the graphics are just fine. It's more like you're playing an old style type game, kind of blurry, that's been kind of modernized, and so it's kind of halfway in between HD resolution and between old-timey graphics, you know? And I feel like that just works for this game. I mean, the whole game is in a 4:3 aspect ratio, kind of trying to take you back to the times where we had the tube TVs. I mean, overall, this entire game is supposed to be like you're living inside of an old video game. And I feel like that's the point. I feel like the graphics represent what the artists were trying to portray. I don't think that these are underwhelming graphics. I think that anything that might be misconstrued as underwhelming graphics were completely intentional when they were put into the game. And even then, both in handheld and on the TV, I felt like the game looked great. It was never distracting to me. At times, there's a lot of color going on, a lot of beautiful scenery going on, and I feel like this game has been knocked too hard for its graphics. Moving on to the combat, if you watch some of the major reviewers out there, a lot of them just talk about the fact that there's just a light attack and a heavy attack combat system, and that gets really repetitive as you just mow down waves of enemy. I will agree that you do have to mow down quite a few enemies. It's almost like a Dynasty Warrior game in that type of sense, but at the same time, I feel like the combat, again, is misconstrued because there's a couple different combinations here. You have a light attack and a heavy attack, sure, but if you jump and do a light attack, it does something different. If you jump and do a heavy attack, it does something different than that. You do kind of like this smashing into the ground with your sword thing that knocks enemies back. And then on top of that, you have some special attacks where you hit the L bumper and one of these buttons and basically do some type of special attack that you can unlock throughout the game. They're called chips, I believe. And so you get different chips, you get different abilities, you can choose up to 4 of them to use in combat, and each one has a different unique ability that can help you in combat. So like personally, I have a healing one, dash, because I like being able to dash quicker as I'm moving along the screen, and then I have 2 different attack-based ones. And so that's my setup, and I think it works really, really nicely. And on top of that, you have an ultimate move as well. Now, I will say that the ultimate move was a little awkward. Basically, what you do is you hit the R bumper, and then you're supposed to like shake your controller to initiate some type of combo with it, but I found that this move was a little inconsistent, so I will knock that part of the combat a little bit because that ultimate move never seems to work exactly how I want it when I want it. but everything else is really fluid, really smooth, and looks really good, which brings me to my next point, frame rate. I'm not a frame rate guru. I don't sit there and run the benchmarks and check it, but I do, notice if there's any lag or any stuttering. I will say for the most part that there was no stuttering, no lag. When it came to the combat scenes, the fast scenes where it counted, I didn't see my game slow down at all. So I think frame rates are solid here. Again, I don't like just sit there and do the benchmarks. All I care about is it playable? Does it work? Does it not freeze on me? Or does it not lag on me? And this game does a great job of that. Now, I will say that there were a couple instances where I would come into a new segment of the game and I would see a little stuttering with the character model, but after the game fully loaded, it worked. And I feel like a patch could easily fix this. I'm going to go ahead and take a second here to talk about the one thing that I did have an issue with. And this seems to just be with the donut and coffee section. So I haven't finished the game yet, and it's primarily due to this donut and coffee section. I think it was Spawnwave who nailed it on the head when he said that basically there's this area in the donut coffee section where you have to bounce on these giant donuts. It happens throughout the entire thing. And when you go to bounce on the donuts, it's very inconsistent. It's supposed to be like kind of like when you're jumping on one of those little music note boxes in Mario, or you kind of get that little extra bounce to get over to the next section. And it was frustrating to me because it was very inconsistent whether or not I would actually be able to complete the jump or not. I would do the exact same thing over and over and over again, and it would not work. I actually found that if I let myself bounce 2 times and then hit the jump and over button, for some reason that worked more consistently, but it was still wildly inconsistent, and there was a lot of times where I would just fall off the course and have to start over. So now that I got that out of the way, let's just talk about the story in general. And I personally find the story very amusing. It is weird, all right? Basically what happens here is Badman is hunting down Travis because he killed Bad Girl, who was apparently a villain in one of the older games. Again, I haven't played the older games, but he's hunting him down because Bad Man is the dad of Bad Girl. And so obviously he wants revenge for the death of his daughter. And so he finds him in this trailer, and there's this video game system called the Death Drive Mark II, I believe. And basically they get sucked into the video game and have to play their way through. And then you find out there's these things called Death Balls, which are essentially Dragon Balls from like Dragon Ball Z. And if you collect all the Death Balls, you get one wish, which will allow them to bring Bad Girl back to life. Now, why Travis is helping Badman at this point, I don't entirely get, but whatever. It's kind of a wacky game, and like I said, there's a lot of humor in it, a lot of adult humor, especially like the fact that when you go to save, you save in a porta potty or in a bathroom in general, and you save by basically taking a crap. So that's just kind of Suda51's potty humor there, I guess. And most of the narrative is told through a green screen scrolling thing where you just read through a bunch of text. But if you take the time to read it, that text is hilarious with a lot of different references and breaking of the fourth wall a lot. Like there's one point where he and I think it's Jean is the cat's name. They are talking about their Metacritic score and how if they were just focusing on the Metacritic score, then they might as well give up on the game right now and end it because otherwise they were going to ruin their Metacritic score. And I thought that was kind of hilarious that they just break in the fourth wall like that and talking strictly about their review score and whether or not it'd be good or not. The game is definitely intended for adults, and there's a lot of adult humor in here, and if you take the time to read through the text, that's not the best way to present a game, obviously, when it comes to its story, but if you take the time to read the text, it's actually really hilarious. Now let's talk about a couple of the additional things that make this game worth your money as well. If you're a big fan of indie games, basically there's a whole store of indie game t-shirts. Now, unfortunately, even though you buy these t-shirts and you save up coins to buy these t-shirts, because of the fact that it's a top-down game style for the most part, you never see the shirt that Travis is wearing. So I bought myself this sweet Hollow Knight shirt, and I never really get to see it except when I'm saving. So, overall, that part was a little disappointing to me, but it's still really cool to see all the different indie game shirts and see what they look like. It's made me very curious about some of the indie games out there because a lot of these shirts I haven't actually heard of, like Earth Atlantis, and then I saw it on my Switch and I'm like, hey, that's the shirt that was in Travis Strikes Again. Maybe I should buy that game. So really kind of excited to see if they add any more shirts in there as more indie games come out. It'd be kind of cool to see additional content and additional support come out. So let's talk about the price. There's two different editions of this game essentially, and that is the $40 version, which you can buy both digitally and physically, which include the season pass, or you can do like me, where you weren't sure about the game and you just want to kind of try it out, and you can get it $10 cheaper at $29.99, but that version only comes digitally. You have to buy it on the eShop, which did make me a little disappointed because I do like collecting my cases. I'm not so sure what the season pass offers and if it's worth the additional $10 or not. I honestly can't speak to that point yet. I haven't gotten around to checking out any of the season pass things. So, if you're watching this video and you have played Travis Strikes Again and you have tried out the season pass, please leave me a comment in the comment section below so we can all know if the season pass is worth the additional $10 or not. But let's talk about the $30 price point and whether or not I think it is worth it. I say maybe wait until this goes on sale for like 25 or 20. 20 or 25 seem like a perfect price for Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. But currently with the issue that is happening in the donut and coffee section, I don't know that I can recommend it for $30. The rest of the game is fantastic. So that'll do it for today, guys. If you like this video, hit that like button down below. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We're actually sitting at about 307 subscribers the last time I checked, which is amazing because just before the holidays, we were sitting at 120. So thank you guys. I appreciate your support. Let's keep it up and let's get to 1,000 subscribers quickly. All right, guys, we'll see you next time here on Switch Mania.